Welcome back to the Deep Dig of Sports Pod. I'm your host, Drew. My other host right over there.
What's up? It's D. Good to see you again. We are coming off of Super Wildcard weekend, a day filled with 3 days of football. It was awesome. Before we dig into any of these storylines, because there's a ton, there's a whole bunch we're getting into. Be sure to hit that like button. Be sure to subscribe and be sure to drop some comments below. Find us on all audio platforms as well. Be sure to rate us 5 stars. It really does help the pod.
Yeah, and we're going to start with the 49ers because we haven't talked about them in a week. They got to relax. They got to watch the Cowboys get knocked out of playoffs. They got to watch the Eagles get knocked out of playoffs and also the Rams get knocked out of playoffs. So before we even get into this Packers matchup, was this best case scenario for the 49ers against all these other opponents? I know people are going to be like, Packers maybe have a shot, was this the best case scenario for the road to the Super Bowl for the 49ers?
Yeah, I don't see anyone in this NFC that's left beating this San Francisco 49ers team. They obviously won their bye week. That's like the big theme for me this week is the 49ers won their bye week. This is awesome. You get to see the Cowboys eat shit. You get to see the Eagles eat shit. Like the Rams, who you're like, oh, shit, they could be a team here. They get eliminated first round. Awesome. So, yeah, they won the bye week.
Yeah, and getting healthier. A lot of players coming back to practice. I know Dre Greenlaw's getting back out there. Ambry Thomas getting healthy.
Eric Armstead posted that he's healthy.
Yeah, it's literally it's on a platter right now for the 49ers to go in there and win this conference. So now let's talk about the Packers because the Cowboys played the Packers. I'm not going to say who wrote them off really badly last week, but maybe two guys on this pod said we're not even caring about the Cowboys-Packers game because the Cowboys should win easily. Didn't look that way. So what happened in that Cowboys-Packers game?
I mean, that's typical of what happens in the Big D, like just
Pause.
Whatever you think is going to happen in the playoffs, it doesn't happen, or they just underachieve consistently with this team. Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott, just two consistent underachievers. And I know people are going to look at Dak's stats. If you're just like box score watching, you're going to be like, it's not on Dak. Yeah, he threw the picks, but look he threw for 400 yards, blah, 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 blah. But that pick six really did kill this Cowboys team and any chance they had at momentum. And he's just not good enough. Like, simply put, he's just not good enough. I'm tired of Dak Prescott being at the forefront just because he's a Cowboys quarterback. He's not good enough. And I think they're going to have to make a change either at quarterback or at coach. But they went in there. They at home where they were the best this season. They got their ass kicked. And it was a statement game from this Green Bay Packers. They have a young quarterback that they feel good about. Mike LaFleur, or is it Matt? Matt or Mike?
Matt
LaFleur. Sorry, Mike. Matt LaFleur goes in there and says, like, hey, Rodgers was not carrying me. I can do this without him. And he proved it. And they looked awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy for the Cowboys. Crazy way to end the season. But, I mean, I've been saying it all year. This is a soft Cowboys team that was beating up on bad teams all year. How many teams they beat with a winning record? Like 1, 2, maybe?
They remember played even early in the year when they were winning games and you were like, I'm not convinced. And I was like telling you, but like you play who you play on the schedule. It doesn't matter. And you're like, no, I just don't see it happening. I don't see them being a team that can win or make a deep playoff run. And I was a little bit skeptical because it's like eventually a team makes it over the hump. You get bucked a couple of times. Look at like LeBron James in the NBA. There was a talk consistently, you can't win the finals, you can't win a championship. And eventually you overcome that. So, I mean, if you get enough at-bats, of course you're going to hit one. And I just thought, like, okay, maybe this is the year that they make a deep run. It just didn't happen.
But this is just who they are. Like, year after year, they're going to win a bunch of regular season games against bad teams. They're going to compete in their division. And the fans are going to say, this is the year we win a Super Bowl. And then when it comes down to it, and the physicality turns up in the playoffs, and the schemes are a lot better, the defenses are a lot better, situations they weigh a lot heavier on the head coach and the decision making. That's when they start to fall apart because they shy away from the physicality. Mike McCarthy is probably the worst situational coach of all time, and Dak's just not that guy in the moment. I mean, how many times do we have to see them lose in the playoffs, and not just lose, they get embarrassed in the playoffs, like until we think like, okay, this team just doesn't got it. So I just didn't believe all year, like, yeah, they are who I thought they were all season. Like they're just what everyone's calling the Dolphins, like pretenders, you know?
Yeah, and I was seeing that towards the end of the season. And I mean, I flipped it over because I was watching it, and then I had to do something, so I ended up listening to the game, and I could listen to the Packers broadcast or the Cowboys broadcast. I was like, I want to hear what Cowboys like broadcast is actually thinking. And they were giving it to them pretty harshly. Like they were like, they're like, I don't know if this is the most embarrassing loss in the playoffs, but it feels like one of the most embarrassing losses in the playoffs, and something needs to change. Jerry Jones needs to do something about either Mike McCarthy or Dak Prescott or both.
When you
And
have when you have your fans trying to say we need to put Trey Lance out there in a playoff game, it
he's not even the backup.
it's bad. It's real bad. You're fishing for hope out there. Like you're not gonna find it with your third string quarterback. There's a reason he hasn't taken over the backup job, and it was just a pretty sad sight to see Cowboys fans clamoring like, why don't we put Trey Lance out there? Like that's gonna actually change the game.
And I mean, let's kind of talk about it a little bit. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think a move is going to be made at quarterback or at head coach?
I mean, you can't go off Dak. I don't know what his contract's looking like, but
I think he has like 1 year left.
I mean, I don't think Trey Lance is the option if he hasn't impressed enough to for you to feel comfortable as your backup going forward. Then I just don't see him progressing that fast in where he left off when we last seen him to take over and be better than Dak. I mean, Dak's not a terrible quarterback. He's not a bad quarterback. I mean, look at he was in MVP race all season. So I don't think you can move off him without having a better option in place. However, Mike McCarthy, like, how could you watch that game and think, yeah, we want to see more Mike McCarthy here? Like, it's just getting ridiculous. They should have even lost the Lions game because he had stupid situational decisions. Like, he just does not work good in the fourth quarter at the end of games. And I mean, this past game against the Packers, he didn't look good the whole game. So I think they can definitely improve there. I mean, there's talks that Belichick could be going there. I don't know if I see that. Him feels like two alphas getting in room, him and Jerry Jones, but they got to do something there. And I know players were already riding for him, saying that they wanted McCarthy back, but how can you defend him at this point?
Yeah, man. But players are coming out. Jenny Slate reported that multiple Cowboys players have come out and defended Mike McCarthy, saying that he's their guy. If he's not there, I don't want to be there. I know Dak actually said it at the podium. If Mike McCarthy isn't here, maybe I won't be here. And fans are like, good. But I don't know, dude. Jerry Jones, that's the one thing like this, a wild card in this situation is Jerry Jones and his age. He's so old. Whereas before he was content to, hey, let's let it ride. Jason Garrett got years on his contract when everyone was like, we got to fire him. We got to get rid of him. We can do better. But Jason Garrett got years, more years than people expected. I think it depends on how Jerry feels. If Jerry's like going to be same old Jerry, he's going to stick with Mike McCarthy and Dak Prescott.
Yeah, that's the real question is when Jerry gets, I mean, Jerry's up there in age, but when he gets a little bit higher, like where you start, like, I don't know how much longer, Jerry got to be in this position and
he's right there right
decisions.
now.
Yeah. But does he start to feel like, okay, we're close. I need to make as much moves as possible to make this Super Bowl happen. Cause that's what he wants. He wants to see one more Super Bowl win, like before he's gone. And that's understandable because if you look at this team, on paper, they're close. Like they almost got the 1 seed. They have a quarterback. They have defensive stars. Like they should be on the cusp, and it feels like they're very far. They're getting farther away.
If you were to ask me where, like, Belichick is actually the most excited to go, or which player he would actually like to coach under. I know everyone's like, oh, well, he should go to the Chargers because of Justin Herbert, or he could go here. Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is like his favorite player of all time is LT. And he loves the defensive side of the ball. They have weapons on defense, a plethora of weapons, just talented guys. They need better scheme. It once they get exposed, like for their different areas of who is soft, I think Belichick shores that up. I think the one thing that you have with Belichick, who's going to be the OC? Because we've seen he's inept and he just cannot find a young guy with a fresh offensive mind. If you're Jerry, do you bring back Kellen Moore and be like, hey, Kellen, work with Bill. You guys kind of figure it out. Like, I just don't know who you would have at OC. I think on the defensive side, Belichick would eat players alive. Like, I think that would be the best fit overall. And as far as like situational, there's no one better than Belichick. But the one thing that concerns me is the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, here's a couple things I'll throw out to you, because I don't think they want Belichick there. But let's say they do. They bring in Belichick. Why not bring in Josh McDaniels to be your OC? We know that these guys, it's peanut butter and jelly. These guys work together so well. Yes, Josh McDaniels sucked as a head coach, but you know where he's really good? Under Bill Belichick as a coordinator. Now that's my first scenario. My second one, why are they not trying to hit up Jim Harbaugh right now?
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh should be the coach of this team. That fits perfect. Like, I think he would love Dak. I think that defense would get a huge boost. I think the offense, we'd simplify it down. Let's just make sure we run, we get these play action passes. Like, I think this is a great fit for Harbaugh. And especially too that it's not going to be a building project like, hey, maybe in 2 years we're going to be there. It's like, hey, let's hit the ground running. Harbaugh's going to give us that juice, and we're going to be motivated to come back and make a statement next year.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't know. It's just one day we're one day after Harbaugh interviews with the Chargers. Maybe he has Dallas next on his tour. Maybe that's it for him. Maybe he just signs with the Chargers. Who knows?
Well, they gotta fire McCarthy first. But
yeah, and that's the thing. Like we haven't had any word as of right now. It is Tuesday at it's almost 6:00. We haven't heard any word of it. Who knows?
Yeah, and before we get off of Belichick, we might as well talk about Bill Belichick interviewing with the Falcons. That's his first interview. I mean, I didn't expect the Falcons to be on his list, or really them to be on for them to have Belichick on the list. People are saying, oh, why don't these good teams, why don't everyone try to get Belichick? I don't think he's going to have a lot of suitors in the beginning of this. I think if he was going to be the top candidate, if he was going to be the big name, why aren't the Chargers calling him already? Why aren't the Panthers and Commanders calling him already? Why isn't he already? We're hearing rumors. Why aren't we like the rumors swirling that, oh, he might go here, might go here? We didn't even hear rumors that the Falcons liked what they heard from him, or that he's considering signing with them. We just got he interviewed with them. What do you think about Belichick and his coaching search or his options?
I mean, maybe he's pulling the John Lynch with the San Francisco 49ers. If anything leaks, I'm out. Like, I'm just going to deny it. I'm going to say I wasn't interested. Maybe he's doing that. But I think it's going to be hard to find a team that wants Belichick, the head coach, that can convince him to not be Belichick, the GM, that either can convince him that not to be the GM or gives him full GM powers. That's going to be tough. And then from his side, let's take out like all the teams he hates. And that's a pretty good little list of teams there. The Jets, the Browns, the Ravens, because the Browns became the Ravens. Who else? The Philadelphia Eagles, for some reason. He hates the Eagles. There's a clip of him and Tom Brady talking, and he was like, the only thing I would cheer for in Philadelphia is the national anthem. So apparently he hates the fucking Eagles too. Is a move to like, I just don't see him going to a lower tier organization, getting GM powers, and then completely revitalizing this team because we've seen he's not a great GM.
Yeah,
He's a
I
great
think
coach.
yeah.
I think you disrespect him a little more, or you're like a little bit down on him, the head coach. But I think him, the head coach, is still a very capable head coach. Again, I just don't know who's going to be his OC. How do you run that? Who's going to be like the young offensive mind that he brings with him?
I'm not disrespecting anything he's done in the past, but I'm saying like, what have you done for me lately? I mean, yeah, he's got good defenses. His offenses have been completely abysmal, like not even coherent offenses. And I think it's this weird in between spot with his ego of like, would he want to go to a lesser team and take way less control of the team and be like, hey, listen, I'm this legendary coach. I know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go to the Panthers and just do what they tell me to do. Like, I just don't know if I see that. But also, the good teams aren't going to want to take him if they could take like a young hotshot offensive coordinator. I think they'd rather have that than Belichick.
I don't know. I think if the Cowboys do move off of McCarthy, it is going to be Belichick. I just don't know if Jerry Jones is up for that. I mean, again, people tell you who they are, and consistently, Jerry Jones is patient. He'll like, yeah, I mean, this is fine. We'll roll with it again. Next year's our year. Next year's our year, and so we'll see.
Well, let's talk about some of these playoff games now. Um, the Dolphins and Chiefs game. Dolphins struggled. I mean, they're all week they're talking about, oh, we're not just a warm weather team, but it turns out they are just a warm weather team. Tyreek Hill, he even said he got his ass. What did he say? He pushed his ass back to Cancun.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was your main takeaways from that? I honestly didn't think the Chiefs were like crazy impressive. I thought it was more that the Dolphins looked bad.
Yeah, I kind of on that same note, like the Dolphins really shit the bed here. I mean, they had a pretty big collapse of their own in this season as well. They were at one point the 1 seed. It was all that locked up that they were going to at least win their division. The Bills go on a Linsanity run and end up taking it, become the hottest team going into the playoffs. And as far as the Dolphins, like, what do you do? I mean, Tua is just not good enough. And I think we talked about it last week, I think, where I was telling you each Tua game is chaotic. Like there's just no rhythm to the offense. He looks fucking lost. The only good plays that they have are scramble drills. Like it just seems stagnant at this point. And Mike McDaniels just didn't have a rhythm for like the run game. He didn't have a rhythm for like the passing game. It just feels off. You know what I mean? And so I just don't know where you go. Do you just run it back and hope that like maybe next year we're a little better? Like, how do we do this? Or do you try to make a big move right now while your stock is the highest as Mike McDaniel and be like, hey, you know what? I'm going to call my shot. Let's trade Tua and let's draft a QB, or let's go after this guy that I really like. I just don't think Tua's good enough.
I think Tua is good. I don't know about good enough.
Why'd you say it like a question?
Because it is like a toss up at this point. Because I don't think you can move off of Tua. You can't draft a quarterback and start fresh because your team's already built to win now. I think they are another team that's in that upper tier that if things break right, they could be in the Super Bowl. But I think it's a game plan thing where Mike McDaniel, you can't just hit home runs. Like, yeah, we're the Bills game before the playoffs. We're running the same play 100 times and hoping Devin Achane breaks. Like, it's not happening. We need to switch things up. And it feels like almost if they don't get those 5 or 6 home run plays a game, they can't function. It's almost like when the Chiefs, everyone started saying, well, listen, you're not going to get behind us.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to give up the 60, 70-yard touchdowns. But Patrick Mahomes then goes and dices you up and they win. Or they run the ball and they win. It feels like the Dolphins don't have that in their arsenal right now. And I think they just need to switch up, have some other plays, other game plans, other than throw it far to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and hope Achane and Mostert break long runs. That in-between stuff just doesn't feel like it's there and it feels awkward. And then
that's because of Tua, though.
yeah,
Like, Tua doesn't have that in his bag. He doesn't have that in his arsenal. He's not good enough.
I think he could do it. I think I've seen him play enough that I think he can do it. But I mean, we stand on two different sides of the aisle here. I don't know. You guys let us know. What do you think Tua's good enough? I think he is.
No, I mean, but anyways, let's go to the Chiefs side of this. Chiefs get a win. Rashee Rice looks awesome. The weather was made for Isaiah Pacheco to run. As far as moving forward, now they're heading to Buffalo. Do you think how do you think that shapes out?
Honestly, have no idea. Like, both these teams can look amazing. Both these teams could look garbage at any moment, any given Sunday. So I really don't know what to take. I don't think I'll be putting any money on this game because I don't know what to expect. I think people are getting a little overhyped on the Josh Allen train right now, though. He's bound to have some bad plays, but people are already like, nah, he's ready to win a Super Bowl. I think Mahomes is kind of he's there. It's just a matter of, are they going to catch the ball? That's it from Mahomes. Are they going to catch it? Because he's making the plays still.
Yeah, and the one thing that looks weird is Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce looks so old. He's dropping passes. It just doesn't look right. I mean, if he just gets his head on straight, they could make a run. You're right. I'm not 100% confident on this Buffalo Bills team. Josh Allen is the arsonist and the firefighter. He creates fires for the Buffalo Bills, but then he makes up for it with touchdowns. How long can you keep that up? I mean, we just seen with Joe Flacco. Oh, yeah, we'll take a couple of picks if it means that he throws some touchdowns. And sometimes that just bites you in the ass. You throw 2 pick sixes in a row, and that's it. That's game over. There's no momentum. So, I mean, I think the Bills should win this game. They should be favorited. I haven't even checked the line. I'm not interested in betting this game at all. But I think with home field, Buffalo should be the favorites. I think Buffalo ends up winning it, but it's an ugly game.
I don't know. I'm 50-50 here. I'm going to go Chiefs. I'm just going to stick with Mahomes and Pacheco and that defense, and I'm going to go. Because early in the season, I felt like the Bills figured it out. Like, they got a run game going. You know, Allen isn't doing too much, but it feels like we've gotten back to a point where they don't even want to give James Cook the ball anymore. Josh Allen just can't help himself but run it all by himself. And
but they are calling more run plays. They usually do ramp it up in the playoffs, and you're seeing that now, and it is effective. I mean, he did dice up this defense of the Steelers. Yeah, it was out there without their best defensive player, but who cares? Yeah, I just think he has enough tools in the tool belt, but he has those holstered.
I just have to see Allen in a big moment not get too excited and do a hero ball stupid play. That's it.
I mean, he did it the last time they played in the playoffs with the Chiefs. I mean, he looked good. He looked superhuman then. Since then, I don't think he's kind of never recaptured that. But, I mean, maybe he puts it on with them.
All right, well, we'll go to the Lions and the Rams matchup. The Stafford Goff revenge game. Goff got the better of them. Big nights, big weekends for Detroit. I mean, Pistons got to win, right?
Double-digit win.
Yeah.
And the banners, baby.
The Lions win a playoff game. I mean, Tim Robinson, Sam Richardson from Detroit, they win Emmys, I believe, or Golden Globes, whatever it was.
I believe it was Emmys.
Yeah, so Detroit on the map right now. How are we feeling about this game? Because honestly, the Rams scared me, that offense. I did not want the Niners to face them. I'm feeling a little bit better about this Detroit matchup, but what do you think?
I mean, the 49ers own Jared Goff. Like, that's not a quarterback that they fear. We've had the better of Jared Goff for multiple years now, but I mean, first off, the Detroit Lions winning their first playoff game in 32 years. I am a 30-year-old man. I've never seen the Detroit Lions win a playoff game in my entire life. I can only imagine what the Detroit Lions fans feel right now. I'm awesome. That's exactly the type. If you are rooting for a team that absolutely fucking sucks, that's the hope. That's the North Star. That's the story you tell your kids, because things will get better eventually. And so that's awesome. Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, they are Detroit legends. So that aside, they beat Matthew Stafford and this Lions team up. They were physical. They were after it. They did kind of stall out midway through this game, but it was just enough to get it done. If the Rams would have won this game, because they were driving at certain points, it would have felt like they stole one right from under Detroit. But ultimately, the Lions were able to seal it off with a big pass play at the end. So he did it on Jared Goff's arms.
Yeah, I thought it was a kind of tough game to watch in that second half a little bit because the offense definitely stalled out. And I think that's been kind of the struggle of this Detroit team at the end, the back half of the season, is the defense not holding up and the offense stalling out. And the defense did just enough in that second half to hold out for the win, and the offense put it together in time. So am I worried about them going forward? I don't think so, but I think they're a solid squad right now, and I think they're ahead of schedule on this Dan Campbell tenure.
I think it's a fun game. If the 49ers do face the Lions, I think that's a fun game. I just don't think the Lions win it. I know they have a shot, but I just don't. When push comes to shove, I don't think that they have. They don't have that in their bag. They don't have that in their arsenal.
I didn't see enough within the offense in that game. Like, I feel like they could have put it away earlier. They had chances and just didn't happen. But Puka is amazing. Puka is top 10.
200 yards. He left it all in the field. He got beat up in that game, but still kept coming at him. The dude's a monster, and he's going to be a problem for the NFC West for years to come. It's crazy. It almost makes you forget that they actually have Cooper Kupp, a guy who won the Triple Crown, was 2 years ago. It makes you kind of forget about that guy. And it's like, that's how good Puka Nacua is.
Yeah, he's amazing. But I want to turn to the Detroit Lions opponent this divisional round week, the Eagles-Bucs game. Isn't it crazy that we're going to have either a Detroit Lions team or a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team in the NFC Championship game? Could anyone have predicted that?
No.
I think there was some optimism with Lions people earlier in the season, but I don't know if they like fully bought in to like that could really happen. But it's going to happen. Either the Lions or the Bucs are in.
The story of this game obviously is the Eagles and their downfall, but it really should be Baker Mayfield and his overcoming and his redemption, and the fact that multiple teams shield him out. I think there's a picture going around of Baker on the scout team with his hand in the dirt being the defensive tackle for the fucking scout team with the Panthers. So to go from that to 1 year later, taking the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back to the playoffs, winning a playoff game against the Eagles, awesome story.
In a team where people gave up on them because Tom Brady couldn't do it again with them. And they wrote them off like, yeah, Todd Bowles is going to get fired this year. This team's going to suck with Baker. Like, maybe they'll try Kyle Trask and see what can happen. And he looks amazing. Now they got it together. They beat an Eagles team that a lot of people thought were going to go back to the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, and I think preseason we were expecting the Bucs to be bad, this to be a bridge year, them to tank and pick a quarterback and fire Todd Bowles. None of that happened. I think it surprised everybody. And now you're looking at it and you're like, damn, all right. Well, Todd Bowles has been an NFL head coach for a really long time. His defense looked awesome. Philadelphia Eagles had no answers for it. They just couldn't beat the blitz for some reason. But Todd Bowles looks like a genius. Baker Mayfield comes out and is a true team leader. And it might have just been a different voice in the room is what this team needed. And because we were looking at they showed the graphic of Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady's numbers last year. And Baker had pretty similar numbers. Tom actually had more yardage and more touchdowns, but it was like, damn, actually Tom Brady was pretty good last year.
Yeah.
But it might just be sometimes you just need a different voice. When you know, like the guy, like if you had a manager and he was about to retire at the end of the month, you're like, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to coast too. Like, you know what
And
I mean?
you got to remember they were coming off the Super Bowl win too, so it was a little. We partied. We're taking it easy a little bit. We could turn it on when we can, and then you couldn't turn it on.
Yeah.
And now this year it's like a get right, get back, get in there. And I think it was, yeah, this team has talent, but is Baker really a franchise guy? And it turns out Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback, and he's going to get major paid this offseason, and he deserves it. I mean, he's if you look back on his career now, seeing what he's doing, it's just like the disrespect has been crazy.
Yeah. The Browns told the media that they were trading Baker Mayfield or getting rid of him or they cut him, right? Didn't they cut him? Or they trade him?
I think they traded him.
I want to say they cut him. But either way, they gave up on Baker. They said, we need an adult in the room.
He was traded
And got rid of him. What did they trade him for?
for, it just says a future draft pick. For a conditional draft pick, and they paid part of his salary. They paid 10 mil of his salary to get him off there.
Golly, that's ridiculous. And they're rolling with Deshaun Watson. So that's all to show you like about the Browns. But yeah, Baker, awesome.
For a 4th or 5th round pick in 2024. But yeah, I mean, moving on to the Eagles though, complete fall apart. 1-6 down the stretch after they had the 1 seed on lock for most of the season. They lose a couple of key games. They lose. Jason Kelce retires. Hell of a career, but he's gone now. I don't think the tush push is ever going to be the same without him. There's no way they're going to be able to do as successfully. Darius Slay gets injured at the end of that game. He's another old player. Jalen Hurts, he's been injured. Nick Sirianni, he's on the chopping block. Everyone's what's that stat you told me about their screen passes this year?
Oh, I'll have to look it up. But it was like they had over 600 screen passes this year for like a negative 200-yard total or something like that.
Yeah, something ridiculous. And I think I saw someone comment, and I think this kind of highlights what their offense was by the end, that people just figured out how to cover the same 5 plays that the Eagles call. Yeah. And that's kind of what the offense looked like a lot of time. It's like run up the middle, run outside, throw it deep, throw it to that side, and like that's all they're gonna call. And it really fell apart. It's crazy how much it fell apart at the end there.
Okay, so here's the stat. The Eagles ran 690 screen passes for a total of negative 26 yards.
That's crazy.
That's pretty wild, dude. So, I mean, the play calling was just stagnant. You had to switch over your defensive coordinator halfway through the year. You should have switched over your offensive coordinator, but I mean, we've seen in his first year, Nick Sirianni got the play calling taken away from him pretty much. How he was like, nah, we're not doing that. So what do you do from here? Do you fire both of these, the Sean Desai and Johnson on the offensive side? Do you fire all 3 and Matt Patricia's gone too? Like, what do you do to make this better? Because it didn't work on both sides. We can blame the defense, but Jalen Hurts looked fucking bad. This offense looked fucking bad. They just couldn't score. As soon as the Bucs went up by 2 scores, we were like, that's game.
Yeah.
That's how inept this Eagles offense was, which was a complete 180 from from last year.
And from the first touchdown of the Bucs, that secondary looked like they didn't want to be there. They were not trying to tackle. They were not even running full speed. There was some touchdowns that the Bucs got that I was like, these guys are just jogging out here. They're letting them score because they don't believe they're done. They checked out.
The Trey Palmer touchdown specifically,
yes,
where he just looks like he's running in a video game and everyone is just running in slow motion behind him.
Yeah, and then he's like cuts back and everyone's kind of like, oh yeah, there he goes. Like,
yeah.
And I know the secondary is really bad for the Eagles, but do you know what makes secondaries not look so bad? The defensive line. Like, that defensive line has guys on there that should be making that secondary look like at least top 15 in the league. Like when your defensive line has that much talent, they should be getting to the quarterback to causing interceptions, causing bad throws. And the D line just looks like they're not getting it done either. And the linebacking core is really bad too. So I up and down, they have the talent, but for some reason they're just not performing.
See, that's where I could see a difference. Like, yeah, the D line is good, but it's not just the secondary, it's the linebacking core. And if you have both of the units behind you poor, you're not going to be able to get to the quarterback. And even if you can, how long do you have before the quarterback releases? You know what I mean? So there's not a whole lot you can do. It's not like you're going to be able to be a sack merchant and just like, oh yeah, I'm going to tear this up. When they're just running quicker plays, then what you can do?
Yeah. But we've seen that the 49ers strategy for a few years was we're going to make a good D line and we're going to get minimum pay secondary and we're going to hope that they hold up.
But we've
And
always had good linebacking cores.
yeah, and that's the difference. That's one of the keys. But I think all around though, that defense just not performing on. They're getting can't stop the rush defense. The rush offense. That was one of the main game plans against them. And then you can't stop the pass. So like, what are you doing? I I just think at this point your cap and like Jalen Hurts contract, you have to run it back, and maybe you just do it under the facade of like, listen, we were all banged up. We had a lot of injuries. We're healthy now. Let's get back to it. And you just hope that you hold it together for next year.
I don't know. Is Jalen Hurts is going to be a problem. Jalen Hurts is going to be a problem for this Philadelphia Eagles team. That number is only going to grow up throughout these years. It's going to balloon up. What are they going to do? Because if he's not going to perform like an MVP caliber quarterback, there's no point. Like, he needs to start elevating people. And like, you can tell visibly, even throughout, like, not just this game, but throughout the season, Philadelphia Eagles players were fucking livid. They were pissed off at Jalen Hurts specifically. AJ Brown would blow up at him. Devontae Smith would blow up at him. In this game, Dallas Goedert was fucking heated at him on the sidelines. So you just can't have shit like that. Like, you need to be everyone bought in on this guy. And I don't know if everyone is 100% bought in.
I think it really hurt him this year that all the Eagles toughed it out in the regular season and didn't miss any games really. When look at the 49ers. Trent Williams sat, Debo sat, and they took a couple L's. And they thought, you know what? We're going to be there at the end, though. And the Eagles just kept going until they broke down. And I think that's what I was saying earlier in the season. Like, they need a game where they just say, fuck it. You guys take this win. We're going to rest our guys for the whole second half. Like, we got to get healthy. And they didn't get healthy and then the year. And that's, I think, really what wore them down. But we got to move on to some coaching news because Jim Harbaugh, Michigan, he's interviewed. Has he interviewed with the Chargers?
He already interviewed, I believe, yesterday.
Is he going to be the Charger coach, or do you think he does a little world tour here?
I think he's going to wait. I think he's going to wait around a little bit and see what pops up. If the Eagles job pops up, I think that's a good fit for him. I think that's dangerous. I think that's a team that does need a Jim Harbaugh-esque, like, hey, I'm behind Jalen 100%. You rally the locker room around him. You get in guys that know exactly, like, just all about football and winning. I think that's kind of what Philly needs at that point. But I wouldn't be surprised. I know the Las Vegas Raiders are saying that AP is their guy, but they haven't hired him yet. I haven't seen anything. Have you?
No, I would think if he's your guy, like, you should have hired him already, like, on the spot.
Yeah. So, I mean, as of right now, again, Tuesday, they haven't hired AP. I think that he's going to interview with the Raiders as well. I think that's a good fit. I know that there are reports saying that the last time around they were interviewing him. It just wasn't the right timing. He wanted to go back and do some unfinished business at Michigan. Mark Davis has always been a fan of his. I think he would go there. If he had his choice of the Chargers or the Raiders, I think he would choose the Raiders.
Hear me out. Seattle.
I don't know about that. I don't know.
Seattle. That'd be a hell of a hire. That'd be, I mean, basically they run a lot of the same style as Harbaugh and that 49ers team that Harbaugh coached.
The one thing is Pete Carroll staying around as advisor because they've never gotten along. Even back to their college days, they've never gotten along. And I don't see that being a thing that Harbaugh would want to step into.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I think he fits more so with the Raiders than the Chargers. I don't think that the Chargers is actually, I mean, this is kind of a hot take. I don't think it's that amazing of a job because the cap situation is really bad there. And you just got to hope that those wide receivers will stay healthy for once. That secondary will stay healthy for once. Your D line is going to stay healthy for once. Like all those guys are injury prone and they cost so much money. And then Herbert, obviously, he's going to have a massive contract. So I just don't know if that's going to be very appealing unless you're like, well, we're just going to win within these next 2 years.
Yeah, I really don't. I don't like the Chargers. I don't like that job. I don't think that it's like a marquee job. Yeah, you have Justin Herbert, but there's a bunch of problems. And guess what? You have to face Mahomes twice a year. Do you really think that you have a chance at even winning your division? No, you don't. Like,
And
unless
the,
you
I mean,
completely 180 this team, you don't have a chance at winning that division. So, like, if I was him, I would maybe look around a little bit more, figure it out. Like, hey, where are we at? Even the Raiders, like, I think that's a better scenario for him because then if he doesn't like Devontae, he could flip him. If he doesn't like Max Crosby, he could flip him. But it's not great. I just
yeah.
don't know. Like, I know that he wants to come to the NFL. I just don't know what exactly he'd be looking for. And if it push comes to shove, if he's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to pick the Chargers just because of Justin Herbert. I think that's like a fair point. I just think he might be holding out for. Could you see Harbaugh with the Cowboys? Could you see him with the Eagles? Like, I think he's holding out for one of those jobs.
I'm just not the biggest Herbert believer. Like I feel like people have crowned him just off his like raw talent as like top 5, top 3 in the league. And I want to see like what can you do for me? What have you done for me lately? I don't think he's really proven a lot in the league. I mean, yeah, he's putting up stats. I think he has amazing talent. I'm not saying he's bad, but to say it's the best job because Herbert, like, I think we have to look at other variables there.
I mean, where else could he go at this point? The Commanders? Would you want to take over the Commanders? The Panthers already said that they're not going to even interview him because David Tepper wants his hand in the cookie jar, wants his say of what it is. And with Jim Harbaugh coming in there, that takes away David Tepper's power.
I think Seattle's the best job.
I don't know. I mean, it's a good job. It would be scary. I think we talked about this. If Vrabel going there would be crazy.
That's worst case scenario for the 49ers. If Vrabel goes to Seattle, they get a really good coach. Then I hate that for the 49ers.
Right. Maybe he goes to the Titans. The Titans are still open.
Yeah. We gotta let this play out a little more. We'll cover it. But I mean, unless the Chargers are giving him a huge offer right now, I think he's gonna wait it out. Last thing we want to wrap up here. Legendary coach, maybe the best coach of all time. The best coach of all time. Nick Saban, he's out. He retires. A lot of people are quick to say, oh, it's because he doesn't want to deal with NIL anymore. He doesn't want to deal with the transfer portal. I seen Rich Eisen and other people saying, like, listen, the daily grind of these guys, it's taxing and it's hard to put in these long days. And he just doesn't feel like he could do it to the best of his ability next year. And so he's stepping away. Do you think that has anything to do with it, the NIL stuff that is kind of shaking things up? Or do you think he's just old and he's done?
I mean, I think it does have something to do with it in the sense that not only now do you have to recruit incoming talent, but you have to recruit your own guys to stay with you. Every single offseason, you have to make sure that you're checking in on them or, hey, how are you feeling? Hey, next year you're going to be getting playing time. And then on top of that, are you developing? Are you doing this? It's a full day all year round. Like there's no days off for
Yeah,
him.
well,
So like, I think
look
that
at Arch
is
Manning.
yeah.
Every day is like Arch Manning's going to transfer because he's not going to play the next year. And it's like this is not how it used to be.
Yeah. And so I think like that adds to what was already a very taxing job. They were saying before NIL, like the being a college coach and recruiting was so taxing on people. But now add in all of this stuff with the NIL and working out deals and doing all this shit. That adds on a whole nother job. I don't know how kudos to all of these coaches that are doing it. I don't know how one person is doing all these jobs. And they're not like, I know that they have GMs and all that, but you still have to be involved in recruiting because if I'm a 5-star best in the nation to recruit, I want to talk to the coach. I want to make sure that my coach is telling me what I want to hear.
Yeah, I have a kind of a terrible theory that so when I was in high school, I had a woodshop class. We were so bad, like everyone was like just on their phones playing video games in class. That the teacher retired after that it, and he said, "You guys are the reason I'm retiring because I can't deal with you guys anymore." Was Jalen Milroe so bad at quarterback that Nick Saban said, I can't deal with this shit anymore. I'm done."
I thought that same thing. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, this is fucking Jalen Milroe's fault. Like he was so bad.
I've never seen Nick Saban so pissed on the sideline. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here, guys?
But I think it's again going into the like recruiting of it and not again just recruiting incoming guys, recruiting your own team, trying to get transfers in the portal. Like I think it didn't help that they don't have a quarterback that can win playoff games. I think he knows that they would have been in playoff games. Like he could have schemed something up, but having that quarterback is what matters. And they just didn't have one. They're not going to have one. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and a lot of recruits already canceling their transferring or canceling their commitment, decommitting. Because I guess Nick Saban just didn't tell them he recruited this for next year.
Well, I think Saban actually did like Alabama the best he could. I think it was something that had been lingering and he just didn't put that forward. He just kept stone face about it. Was like, "Hey, like we're good. I'm going to be here. I'm going to recruit still." And look at what he did. He announces he's going to retire. He tells his team, he goes out and advises on who they should actually bring in as the head coach. And then he does a joint, press conference with him announcing, "Hey, I'm going to be retiring. Kalen DeBoer is going to be stepping in. I believe in Caitlin. I think that, Bama is going to be in good hands for years to come." So it was 2-3 days before from Saban, the news getting out to Kalen DeBoer being named the head coach. So it's not like they lost a whole bunch of recruits like in that time. They did lose some, but I think that transfer of power, like that's just who Nick Saban is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, really interesting. They went out and got Kalen DeBoer. Who'd you say that they offered to first, supposedly?
Supposedly their guy was Dan Lanning. They were going after Oregon's head coach, Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, before the Kalen DeBoer announcement, announced that he would be staying with Oregon. So I think that kind of put that made it, to me, it validated the rumor that he was on their list first. And then they go out and get, the national champion runner-up, Kalen DeBoer. And I know some people were like, why would he do that? He just, brought Washington to a national champion. Because the recruiting power that you have at Alabama, the resources available to you, the staying power, Bama got in as a one-loss team. There was an undefeated Florida State there. Do you think that Washington would have gotten that? No. So, like, it is what it is. Like, Bama is such a powerhouse in college football that it makes things easier as a coach.
Yeah, Washington had a lot of seniors, and we've seen them get close, and then it takes a couple more years to build it back up. And even for what he built, which was amazing, we saw that the physicality is different in these other conferences. And I think it would have took a few years to recruit the type of talent that you need to compete in the Big Ten, in the SEC. Like, I think he saw the writing on the wall. Like, we're just not good enough to compete with Michigan. That's
Michigan
it.
bullied them at the line on both sides.
Yeah, so it would have taken a whole different kind of recruiting class because the Pac-12 was different. There's a lot of
Worse.
offensive, high spread, high-powered offenses. But once you get into the playoff, these teams are big. There's some big boys out there.
Yeah, and I think it was a good hire. Kalen DeBoer, everywhere he's gone, he's won. I think that moving forward, it is going to be a tough job, though. I mean, you're the guy after the guy. You're following up on a legend. How many years can he go without winning a championship before they fire him?
If you're going to replace him, they'll go out and get one of the best right now. So I think that was a good move.
Yeah. How many years do you think he has before he gets fired if he doesn't win a national championship?
Man. I mean, maybe that new playoff format's going to really shake things up. So maybe they want to hold on to him give him a little more time. So
that's exactly my thinking.
Yeah.
I think with the playoff format, the Bama fans are still going to be like, hey, it's national championship or bust. But I think the school itself is going to be like, as long as we're in the playoff every year and winning playoff games, like, we're fine with that.
Yeah.
If we have enough at bats, eventually we're going to hit one out of the park.
Yeah. And it just takes the right group of seniors and the right quarterback to happen, and stay injury free. Florida State,
Yeah, and again, DeBoer's a winner. He's won everywhere he's gone. I expect him to continue to win at Alabama, of all places.
All right, well, that's all we got for today. We ran a little long talking ball, but so much to cover. Appreciate you guys watching. We're getting a lot of new listeners, and make sure you guys comment. Comments have been great lately, so like, comment, subscribe. Let's keep it up, and go Niners.
All right, later.